name is Christina Rahm, and this is the House of Rahmas, which is a combination of my name and my husband's name, Clayton Thomas. So we talk about issues that pertain to the world.
Okay.
And usually we have someone on the show that we're both going to interview at some point.
I love it.
Yeah. We had different things. We have Under the Red Chandelier, which is fashion and like music and the arts. And then Cure the Causes, which is more about health and wellness. Right. But we were excited to have you on because I don't think I've ever had an interview with a meteorologist. Probably because, so I have a speech impediment.
Okay.
So to even say meteorologist.
It's a hard word. It's a hard word to say and like, spell.
Well, I used to do oncology research for years, and it took me I would say oncologist. Like, no, just because I have this impediment, right?
Right.
But anyway, tell me about you. We're so excited to have you on the show. We really are. And this is Danielle Breezy.
Yes.
And I want to hear all about you because I asked her before we started if she always knew she was going to be a meteorologist. And you said yes, which was fascinating to me. So I want to hear about that.
I mean, I was going to say, I think most meteorologists in television and broadcast, they get that weather bug really early. And I was a child growing up in Philadelphia, and we had snowstorm. We had like the blizzard of 93, ice storm of 94, where I like skated down my driveway, blizzard of 96. Now, while kids are playing in the snow, I was like measuring the snow every hour, getting the amounts and totals and trying to send it into the local news station. So I think that kind of said something like,
oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to, this is more than it is.
Yeah.
But then in 8th grade, a meteorologist by the name of Glenn Hurricane Schwartz, who I think has a better name than me, he was a hurricane hunter. Yeah. He came to my school, and I was like, this is so fascinating. And so at the time, there was no internet like we have these days, and we had landline telephones. Yeah. So I wrote him a handwritten letter, left my landline telephone, and he called me and invited me to the station.
Wow. So how old were you when that happened?
I was in 8th grade. So I went up there.
That's amazing.
It's amazing. Like, so I got to go up there and meet him and see like a live broadcast. And, seeing it on your TV and then seeing it in real life when it's actually happening.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. And I just knew that day I was hooked. And so he's been my weather mentor. He's actually, when you're getting old in the business, he's retired now. Great, successful career in Philadelphia. But, from there, went to school.
And he hunted hurricanes, you said?
Yeah, that was his beginning of his job. It was like with the hurricane hunters. You want to like fly into the middle of the hurricane.
I remember the first time I was in a hurricane. Okay. And I was in Mobile, Alabama. In fact, we just did a podcast with someone that's from Mobile.
Okay.
And it was fascinating to me. I remember pulling in, and like to me, it was like, oh, this is going to be fun. It's a hurricane, right?
Right.
So I pulled into Walmart, and I remember taking a car and flipping it over and me thinking, wow, this is not like something, because I was in a sorority, so we're all thinking we're going to drink. You know how it is. It's a big party. Do people know that about hurricanes?
I don't know if everyone knows people stay put and then they just hang out together.
It's called a hurricane party.
Okay, yes.
And in Mobile, it was a big deal. Like, you'd even go to clubs and you would hang out for the hurricane. But I remember it hitting me like, this is not that funny. Like,
no.
Like, this is kind of serious.
They can be very devastating.
Katrina, when Katrina hit, I had just moved to Nashville, and I had a house that was destroyed in Spanish Fort right there on the water. Yeah. Yep. And so,
I mean, that was a bad one because that was hitting at sea level, and it was below sea level, so everything just flooded. Once those levees broke, that was not good.
Have you ever flown in to and done any?
So I got to chase a hurricane when I was in college.
You did?
I did. I chased Hurricane Francis. And that was in 2004 or 5. I forget now. I'm going to mess up my years. But it was the year that all those ones went over Florida like scissors.
Yeah,
like
they were just everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah. It was a big year.
Because another thing is, when you live in that area, like I lived in Mobile for 12 years, you're always watching the news for that.
Right.
Because they come. Once you realize it, I mean, they're there.
I mean, you have to pay attention. And they usually prep you. I mean, you can see a hurricane. The good news about hurricanes, you can see it further out. So you have time. Yeah. But once it's there, you're done. Like, you're either gone or you're in it.
And I think people that have never lived in an area that's hit by hurricanes don't know that even if the hurricane doesn't hit you, the weather is really bad.
Yes.
I mean, for a long time. Yes. I mean, it affects the whole, your whole week, right?
We even hurricanes in Nashville. I mean, when they come to us, we normally get flooding from them or severe weather and tornadoes. When Beryl came over us, we got like a lot of tornado warnings that day.
Yeah, yeah. It spins off, and you have so many things. So you chased a hurricane.
Yes, which was wild because I wasn't prepared. Like you were, say you're not really prepared.
Yeah.
Once the power goes out, you don't have power, right?
don't
So
have
you're,
power, yeah.
and you get really, it's really muggy. So you sweat through everything. You go
Right.
outside, everything's wet.
Such a great point. Like you're inside, your air
And you're
conditioning's
just like your
off.
house, yes.
Outside, it's miserable. Yeah.
It's and the winds weren't even that bad. It was a category 2, but even watching the winds like take down like, light poles and
Yeah.
watching it, you hear rattling at night, and it's nighttime. You can't hear, and the eye wall's going through, and then. The next day you go out and they're like cars are dented in, like you said,
Yeah.
trees are on cars. I
Yeah.
mean, it's wild.
Well, I think that's another misunderstanding. Unless you've actually watched TV or been
Right.
through a hurricane, you can have a level 2 and it can have mass destruction. I mean, people don't realize that, but it doesn't
Right.
have to be like a category 7.
Right,
To do
anything,
a lot
right.
of harm. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and it impacts a lot more people because it's such a big storm. So, like,
So are you excited about that as a meteorologist, or do you get nervous? Do you know what I mean? Because
Right.
I think, like, I've traveled a lot and I've been in some situations that are not, that would probably scare some people that don't really scare me because I've gone through it.
right.
I wonder about you. Do you get nervous when you're in those environments, or you see that happening?
I would tell you, like, especially here being a meteorologist, especially with tornado weather, for example, I have a very, the day of, like, I get a little bit more anxious.
Yeah.
I usually go for a run right before I'm going to do the coverage. And I just
wow.
think and I hope that I say a prayer before I go in, that people listen to me.
Yeah.
And when I say to get down to the safe zone, they do it, because that's a big thing. It's like those kind of moments for meteorologists are your Super Bowls, is what I call it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a day where you take pride in that day, and you
Yeah.
hope, but you also like have to make sure you're ready to go, like, for hours and hours and hours on end with talking nonstop. And people don't realize this with us. It's not like somebody's feeding me words to say. We're talking off the top of our head, and we can be on TV for, a couple hours to 12 hours to
Wow.
24 hours straight, and especially with hurricanes where they're long standing.
So you're still there.
You're still there, and you may take 12-hour shifts on, 12-hour shifts off. In the middle of tornado stuff, I usually stay on the entire time for our coverage here. So
Do they have a place to sleep?
we do have, they'll bring us mattresses and blow up
Yeah.
mattresses if you
I
want to take a
wonder,
quick
yeah.
nap, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, you just get ready to grind. And I always say an energy drink. I know it's bad for you, but it's something I'll pop if I need to just keep going.
We need to give you zero in, and I mean that.
yes.
We have so I worked on an adaptogenic nootropic. I did it at first because I had worked at Pfizer
Okay.
when we launched Viagra, and I had been
Okay.
on some of the medical marketing and clinical teams where we reviewed it. And so I got to experience how they worked on it in the lab and everything they did. And it was originally, people don't know this, but Viagra was for cardiovascular events.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then they realized that it actually could cause a cardiovascular. Do you
Okay, yeah.
Well, what happened was they were doing the trials, and then they saw that people were getting an erection, right?
Okay.
And then they realized, well, maybe this is not helping necessarily for cardiovascular.
Right,
And the
okay.
mechanism, actually, when you look at nitric oxide and the different things involved, can help. Right.
Okay.
Or it can, if it's not used right, or the body, everyone's DNA is different.
Right.
It would have the reverse. So they ended up launching it, which was probably the funnest marketing launch
Right.
I've ever been in my
Okay.
career. We had cars that you would hit and they'd come up. Like, we had Formula One drivers. I met Tiger Woods through that launch.
You're like, it was a fun time.
It was
You're like,
a fun time. We had ties, we had pins that would,
Right.
yeah, it was so much fun. But educationally and as a scientist, I wanted something for women.
Right.
And so I worked on for sexual performance for women, because people always think that, most research is done on men. I don't know if you know that. There's
Right.
70% less research on women.
Yes.
And so I
yes.
worked on it, but then I started adding different things and working. It's an adaptogenic nootropic. So it basically
Okay.
is working with your neurotransmitters, with serotonin
Okay.
and dopamine,
Yes.
which can help you perform.
Correct.
Or women are emotional and
Yep.
mental, so it's helping with that. Because the truth is, if you're not happy, women are less likely to have a sexual experience. But
Right.
men, we're getting off the topic of meteorology.
I
So
know,
I'm sorry.
we're sliding this way, but I don't mind it.
But this
Sometimes
is
we go
okay.
avenues. We go avenues.
So men don't have to be happy.
Right, okay.
So I worked on it for that, but then whenever I work on something, I take it myself or I use it myself, because
Right.
it's like cooking.
Right. You gotta
Well, you
try
know
and
how that is.
figure-
When
yeah.
you're doing stuff, you'll practice, and then
Right.
So then I noticed it was enhancing cognitive performance, and I noticed that it was also helping with overall performance. And then we started testing it.
Okay.
And men liked it just as well as women. Men started performing, like, we have Olympic athletes that use the product. We have
Right.
professional athletes. We got approved by European and North America Olympics, so
Okay.
it's considered natural.
That's
But
awesome.
it
Okay.
keeps you up
Okay.
and focused, and it increases energy.
Ooh.
So we'll have to give you some.
I would love that.
I take one in the morning, And sometimes, because I travel a lot, because we're in 80 countries, so sometimes I'll take 2.
Okay.
The most I've ever taken are 3, but I'm at that point, I'm in a great mood for a long time.
You're like, woo, hi, I'm here.
And then the next day I remember, I just remember being happy, and I'm not sure. But some people will take up to 5. I don't. But I'm letting you know because that'll help you, because it doesn't give you the jitters like coffee.
Okay, yes.
It does take your body a while to adapt to it, though. So you give yourself like 6 weeks to get used. Some people notice a change right away. Some people are like, I don't notice a difference. But they do notice they're not as tired.
Okay, so that's that's a
Yeah.
I'm all about it, whatever it takes.
Because I went to the news this morning, and the lady that walked us in, I think, had been there since 11. Like
wild.
I don't know how they stay up. I guess they do different shifts.
Yeah, we all do different shifts, and it depends on what you're working.
So you can be called in.
Yes, I work Monday through Friday, normally like 1:30 to 10:30. But if we have weather situations, I could be in at
like
noon.
a tornado.
Yeah, and we could stay through the next day morning show. So I could be on air from like noon one day through the whole night till like 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning the next day.
And there's not the opportunity to say I'm tired. I can't go on
you
air.
just keep going. You just keep going. So it's like that's the thing where you're like, okay. And then if you have
have great energy though.
Yes.
So you're lucky. Like we have this genetic test that you'll have to take at some point.
Okay.
It shows you what level of energy you have.
People say I'm like the Energizer Bunny.
You can tell. I can feel it. My husband's that way. I feel the energy. Yeah, that's good.
It's good. I don't know what it is. I think
You're very fortunate. I can tell you it's gene expression is part of it.
Okay, that's good.
So
okay.
you're blessed because you have that energy gene.
I know.
There's like 7 genes that control that, by the way.
I was gonna say I've had it since I was young, because I feel like
Yeah.
ever since, like, even people always said you always multitask. Even in college, like you would go to school for meteorology, but then you would be working 2 jobs.
Yeah.
You'd be working on the TV station, so you would like never like sleep, and you'd be all right. Like, I try to prioritize sleep now that I'm almost 40, about to be 40.
Yeah.
But it's hard, so sometimes you have to like, build it in, or
Yeah.
I catch up on it on the weekends when I'm not necessarily working as much. you
Yeah,
know?
I kind of do the same thing because I can't. When we travel, usually 2 to 3 hours is what I get. So what? But when I crash, I'm just worn out. I'll try to catch up on it.
Right.
Yeah, and
it's good for it. And taking personal time, I think, is so important. People don't realize that, but you have
Yeah.
to take like an hour of you time
Yeah.
when you can.
Yeah.
And just either if it's relaxing or
Yeah.
going for a run for
Yeah.
yourself or whatever it is. Like I sit in silence sometimes. Like
Yeah,
I
me
literally
too.
sit in silence.
Yeah,
And
if
it's
I
nice.
have an option, I love to work out. I have to be honest. I love to. I don't always get the opportunity to do as much as I want.
Right.
Like right now, I definitely need to work out more, and I try to do small work. It's even if I get 10 to 15 minutes.
It's great. It's something.
But I love sitting in silence. Like it's one of my favorite things. If I can just sit there.
I think people are like, that's strange for you, like me,
No.
because I'm a talker and
Yeah.
you're a talker. I know
I'm a
you're. I
talker,
can tell
yeah.
you are. But it's like sometimes when you've been on the whole day, you just want like the quiet time. Like I do a segment every Friday in the summertime. It's called Backyard Barbecue, where like I go out to a person in the community that won the Backyard Barbecue.
I knew I recognized
Yeah.
you. I've seen that.
I like go out.
I like that.
Yeah, like
a
I go
lot,
out to
yeah.
like random towns and like they win, so I don't know who they are because like
Yeah.
my management picks it all. So I show up, we do weather every hit. So I'm doing like 2 hits every half hour, and then we eat together, we hang out, and then I leave at 6:20. But on the way home in the car, I don't put music on. I just sit like quietly, like.
We need to try to do backyard barbecue at our house at the Governor's Club and try
Yes.
to win this contest.
You got to win. Listen, I bet you
serious.
have a beautiful backyard. So
We do have
you
a
just got to
pretty cool
snap
backyard.
a picture, put it in.
Why
I
aren't
bet-
we doing that?
And then
All of us.
And then we can talk about anything. And for the record,
We have nothing else to do. I'm going to do this.
you're going to do this. Because
Yeah, we're going to do this.
And my thing is, then we can talk about all the things you do, and we can plug it.
It's
Like,
not just that. We can have fun.
fun. You have the great.
We have an outdoor kitchen and an outdoor pool. We have a sport court, a
Okay.
pickleball court. Joyce Smallwood's here. She wants to play pickleball with me. This gives us an opportunity.
Right.
We even
We
have
can show it all off.
we have a prayer garden on the side.
Oh, see now.
And we're on the
that's
first hole of the Governor's Club if you want to play golf.
nice. Oh my god.
I'm going to win this contest. How do I get them to our house?
You're like I will send you links. I promise you.
know
I will
you
get
know.
you. I will get you in.
But I got to tell you this. So my husband has more energy. You have that level. He has, and he really does. He wakes up in a good mood.
Right.
People ask me now when he's in a bad mood. It's not a great day.
Okay, you know that. It's
But it
gonna-
doesn't happen very often, and it's a spurt, and then it goes back. But he said to me this morning, I think Stephanie heard him. He said, I don't know if I like people very much today. I've been around so many people, I can't handle it. And I said, Clayton, he goes, I'm just joking. And then he goes, but I'm really tired. He can hit that wall.
Right.
And I'm sure you can too.
Yeah. It's like if you get to a point where you've been overextended too much, I think it's where.
Yeah, because he loves people. You
Yes,
love people. But what
yes.
happens is sometimes when you're inundated with wonderful, beautiful souls that you get to meet, because it is a gift to meet each person.
I
it's
love
a
it.
gift.
Oh, I love that's part of our job. I love it.
I always say to myself, this is a gift. I get to meet these people, and I can't miss this gift because you're actually exchanging. As a scientist, I know we're exchanging energy, right? Our cells are talking, and it's a great gift. But you can reach a point where you just have to take a break.
Right. I think too, as a public person, probably just like you as a public person, it's like one of the lucky things you have is that gift to touch people. So like, what do you do with that gift? So one of the things I always say is, for somebody that's in television, you need to get behind causes and do the charity work.
I just talked about this morning because Joy and I were talking about it because I go to a lot of fundraisers, right? Because I do a lot of my patents are around detoxing and remediating the land, air, and water.
Okay.
People, reversal of aging, stuff like that for animals and people. And so I've used that. I think it's a gift if you have the ability, like you said, to be a public person, but you have to put the mission has to be love.
Yep.
And really caring about these causes, right? So that's a lot of what we do. We don't talk about it enough, I don't think, because we're always talking about other things, but it's a huge mission of ours that we do philanthropy. And we do a lot of fundraising and giving back. And we do it in Nashville, but we actually, because of the 80 countries.
You can do it anywhere.
We do it all over,
Which is awesome. I mean, I think that's super important. And I think that's why I feel like in Nashville, I've been here now 8 years, and I feel like one of the reasons people actually, I think my name is very nice and catchy, Breezy, for a weather person.
It's a great name. I kept saying Breezy. Is this right? Because I was like, this is like a infomercial. Like she's a meteorologist, and her name's Breezy.
No, I gotta give credit to the husband on that one because
Did you pick him because of that name?
Yes, I did. You're correct. You're very correct.
Just if he's watching this, it was not you. It was your name.
I was literally like, wait, what's your? Okay, we're gonna get married. You don't know it yet, but this is too good. This is too good. But he's a radio personality.
Oh, is he?
And so that was his radio name given to him when he was like 19, had a big job, and so he was like, I'll take whatever you want to name me, I'm in. Yeah. I mean, his middle name is Joe. So Joe, our last name is not legally that name. But when we got married, I was like, I am taking this name and going to Nashville with it because you're going to be on the radio. I'm going to be. So we did that, and it's like,
who's more famous?
Oh, that's a good question. I still think I am, but I mean, the jury's out. He does TV now too, so
please send this to him.
He would probably think he's more famous in his own mind. No, I mean, he does a lot too. He's on like Mix 92.9, which is a very big radio station in town, a powerhouse. And he does the afternoon drive, and he does local on too on my station, so like the entertainment show.
We need to have him on with Clayton.
We
were doing a photo shoot for our peptide skincare line.
Okay.
So my husband comes out. I'm like they have me doing videos or doing different things. So Clayton comes out in a white robe and his body is showing. And and Joy is like, I'm like, Clayton, and he keeps like trying to like move the robe off. I was like, this is for your face. No one needs to see your body.
Needs to see everything.
And in the video, he keeps bringing it back to like this. And so I'm like, come on, you got to stop. But Clayton probably would say he's famous.
Yeah, he would say that too. He's like, it's
they could have.
Just let them have it if they want it. It's like, okay.
So this is great. So you guys are basically a power couple.
We try. I mean, we do. I joke about it because I will say this made our day was when he used to do like top 40 radio before he went to Mix 92.9, but we met Taylor Swift, which she's like, whoa, and she was like, you guys are the power couple of Nashville radio TV.
I'm sure because she made her name with radio. Yeah,
and so she said that, and I was like, wow, if she's saying it, I was like, I guess it kind of is true.
Is she on the panel?
I don't know.
Why isn't she?
You got to get. Yeah.
She needs to be on our panel tomorrow.
I
don't know what your schedule is, but like people would love to hear you talk and your husband.
I know. It's like a good.
Do you have kids?
We do not have children. No, we have no kids. We had a dog for 17.
I was getting ready to say, do you have animals?
Yeah, and then she passed away, and since then we took a nice little break on that, and because we travel a lot now for fun and for business and stuff.
I have to say, I feel like we travel a lot.
Yeah, so it's hard.
It's hard, and we couldn't do it without our kids and the people around us. Like even our corporate office, everyone like has our dogs. And then we found this place that is the farm that they like to go on. They like it
yes.
if they're together, but they don't like it. Two of the dogs like each other. Our third dog, which is a micro palm, doesn't like anyone. I mean, he thinks he's like this little. He wears a Gucci little sweater right now.
Yeah, like he runs the house. He runs the house.
Oh yeah, and if you tried to touch him, if you were on my lap, he would bite you.
Oh, so he's so he's also very defensive. He's like, no,
yeah,
this
but
is
it's
my
a
people.
lot having animals.
Yes,
and it is, and you love them. Like
I
family.
do love them, and I mean, we do so much for Nashville Humane Association.
I was going to ask you, what causes do you put?
Yeah, that's one of the ones we're pretty big into. Like just because. They do so much for furry friends, and we do love. Like I would hang out and watch anybody's furry friend
it's
for
the
them.
Nashville Humane Society.
Yes,
we need to remember that because we sponsored and we're sponsoring it this year too. Catwalk for Fur Babies. Is it Runway 7 or Runway 7? Right. It's a big runway during Fashion Week.
Okay, yes.
And the first year we were supposed to partner. We partnered with Elysium and Burberry.
Okay.
But then Burberry pulled out and Lafayette stepped in, the clothing brand in the end. We have a clothing brand, skincare, and we have an animal brand.
That's so cool.
Called Bill and Coo.
Yes.
Do you know what Bill and Coo means?
No,
So I came up with the name because I'm like Googling, trying to figure out what do we name this brand, and it means basically to pet and cuddle.
Oh,
isn't that
cute.
sweet?
That's sweet. Yeah.
There was a movie called Bill and Coo, but that's what Bill and Coo means, and so I
sweet.
loved it because of animals. But we do a lot. We raised, I don't know if it was $500,000, but we raised a lot of money. We contributed to for charities all over for animals.
That would be awesome. I mean,
so we picked Franklin. We picked another group to give it to in Nashville. But if you'll get me that information, we can contribute to the group you're talking about.
Well, I would love to even get you with I do also the Pedigree Foundation.
Wow. And we need to make sure we
because you guys could even come to like a cool event with us.
We would love that.
Because they do a songwriting round, and my husband and I usually host it, and it's all for charity, and you just sit, listen to music, and it's like you guys would love that too.
Please get me that. You know, I at one point, and I still have this because I'm registered with BMI and Sony.
Yeah.
We had 2 music publishing.
Oh,
so
okay.
I signed songwriters. I did it because my kids were interested in music, and my grandmother left me some money, and because I was in Nashville, I wanted to understand the industry. Because of my children.
Yes.
And plus, I believe in songwriters because I feel like they're so gifted and they get taken advantage of.
Right.
And I really wanted to be a part of it. But I have to tell you, it's a lot of work. Like, people don't understand.
Oh, no.
I was out all night, and the problem was I was a CEO working during the day in health.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand how much time goes into the music industry. So this songwriters night, I'd love to sponsor it and be a part of it, help however we can.
I mean, I love that. That's what I truly love about Nashville too. Like, I mean, you talk about that. Like, there are so many great charity events based around like a songwriting night or something, and it's such a unique experience that like most people don't get to get around the country. So I think it's such a unique. I love those kind of things, and we host a lot of things like that.
I hope you come to my house tomorrow night. If you don't have the invitation, we'll send it. But we have guitars all over our house signed by like Reba McEntire or Faith and Tim, because we've gone to so many of those.
That's
so
amazing.
we buy the guitar. You know how you know, Chris Jansen, all those guys. I love Songwriters Night. I actually like Songwriters Nights better than going to a huge concert.
I know, because it's so intimate, and they also explain to you like. You know, I don't think I knew until I got to Nashville, like as a meteorologist, that even like songs were written by somebody else. Like the person that sang them doesn't necessarily.
I didn't know
write
either.
them.
Like I didn't know. In fact, Carrie Underwood moved next door to us.
Okay.
We're on the first hall, so it's if you go on our first hall, that house is right catty corner to us. And you know her story. Like she won
American Idol. Yep. Like one of the first.
Most of that money went to them,
right?
And not her. It was like $250,000 a year. She was kind of taking advantage. I don't want to talk bad about American Idol, because look, I don't think you can say she was taken advantage of. She's a great career now.
Right? Correct.
But I didn't know that until Keith Urban and Nicole. It wasn't Nicole Kidman. It was Nikki Taylor lived across the street. Right directly across the street from us, and so I kind of got to know them a little bit.
Right.
And that's when I figured out. I didn't know they didn't write the songs. And then Tim, we went on tour with Tim and Lady Antebellum for a week. I only lasted a couple of days because I had to go back to work. But we were supposed to be a week. And they all talked about that. Like I can say, what ends up happening is the people that are famous, they end up being part of writing the songs, because They want to do both.
Right, correct.
But then sometimes they'll accept a song that they're not a part of,
Right.
but they don't make as much money. I didn't know any of that until
No,
I
I
got
didn't
into
know
the
any of that
business.
too. That was
Yeah.
like, it's all like new things I've learned, which is
Yeah.
neat. It's neat. It's a neat business how it all works out.
But I do think singers and songwriters are the talent,
Mm-hmm.
and you probably understand this. You're the talent, so you want to make. For me, it was important to sponsor those people,
Right.
Because
Yep.
a lot of times your talent is misused,
Right.
and
Exactly.
it's such a gift, and it's a lot of hard work.
It is a lot of hard work. I was like, woof, I give
So-
them a lot of credit.
So you do a lot for animals.
Yeah, a lot for animals. We do a lot. I mean, I do a lot for all different kinds of charities. Anything that like really moves me. Like I'm the spokesperson for St. Jude, their
wow.
Dream Home campaign.
Yeah.
So we've done that the last, I think it's 6 years now, and we've raised over like $8-9 million for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital.
I actually did research at Memphis, St.
Okay,
Jude.
so
we had the first child that had PNH, which is paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria.
Okay.
I was working for Alexion, and the first patient that was put on was at Fred Hutchinson, and I actually had to go to South Dakota because I was doing the research and science, and then the first child was at St. Jude's in Memphis.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that hospital is inspiring in
It
itself.
is.
You know,
It is.
And it's pretty cool to see the campaign. Like they're very, very excited. You know, when we took this over, because I'd done St. Jude Dream Home when I worked in Oklahoma City in weather, and even did like their runway in Boston when I worked in Boston. So I've been involved with that for a long time, but to do it in Nashville where like Memphis is right there, you know, so you see the residuals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I've been to the hospital, and it's like people don't realize about that hospital. Like it's like a hope hospital. Like you go in there, there's
People
bright
don't
lights
realize
and
it.
colors, and the patients are happy. Like you know,
The nurses and the doctors,
are
just
so
amazing.
they're so passionate.
They are so passionate. They give so much to,
Yes.
to those kids. I actually, because I did that there, I still contribute every year.
Great.
But I
That's-
don't go to fundraisers. So anything with that
Yes.
too. St. Jude's is one of the places, and you know, you hear a lot about giving to things.
Yes.
St. Jude's, the money actually goes to those kids.
Right,
I just
which
want
is-
people to know that.
That is true. And then the other thing I do is like with MDA.
Yeah.
So, you know, I got involved with MDA for, you know, years ago, but I actually suffered an injury last fall where I was running, fell, broke my kneecap.
Okay.
Right. And so I was actually in a mobilizing cast, had to have like somebody pushing me around. And now that injury alone like made me realize how hard these folks have it, yet they look so happy every day, you know, in the wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And they have to like, you know, you have to think about things before you even go to dinner, and
And
the
life's
doors
completely
opening
different.
and you have to make sure, you know, and to be a part of that night, like I'm hosting it this night. Usually I just go to it. Like they just let me come as a guest and I go
Yeah.
and like, you know, donate and all that. But this year they asked me to like step in to host it, and I was like, I'll happily do it, because like this is like an event that's really special to me too, because it's just like you see these kids in wheelchairs and they're just happy, and it's like, wow, like so it's just certain causes like this. I'm like, like anything with children, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Anything with fur babies.
Well, I mean, God's using you. I'm not trying to be religious or spiritual,
Right.
but God's using you in a
Right.
way that I always tell people this. I have 4 children, and I never thought I was going to have children. And
Right.
if you asked me why I wanted to work in orphanages,
Okay.
so I wanted to work with children and animals.
Okay.
But I didn't necessarily want to have my own, and of course I love my children.
Yes.
But I think there's so many other ways to touch people's lives. Being a parent is probably the biggest gift I have and one of the hardest, right?
Right.
But I think that there's different things to do in life, and not everyone is meant to have animals or children. But if you don't love things
Right.
that are weaker,
Yes.
and I just want to say this, as humans, if we don't help people, and I don't, they're not weaker overall, right? Because you're right.
Right.
When you have MDA, you really are a strong person.
Yes.
A lot of people you meet, it's like I worked with Down syndrome for
Yeah.
a while. Same thing, right? So I'm not saying they're weaker, but we are here to take care of each other, and we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. So
Right.
I love your story, and I love how you're giving back. Like you're using your stage.
Right.
To
And
impact everyone.
and I also think, like, you know, you said it, I don't have kids per se on my own.
But you have other.
But I have others, and I also have interns every summer. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
just let go of 4 of them. Yesterday was my last one for my last 2.
Was it hard?
It was hard because they're like
Yeah.
my weather babies, I call
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
But you know, that's one of the things is once they become an intern of mine, they truly become one of my people.
Yeah.
I call them like my breezy bunch of people.
Yeah.
And so I will always take care of them. Like I will answer their phone call. I will help them with their contracts. I will help them with negotiations. I will get them an agent if they need it. I will.
And it's so needed.
And it's so neat. Like those kids don't know it, and I already have been through it for 20 years, so I can help them, reach out. And I reached out, like 2 of my interns, I connected to jobs that they now are getting offers on.
That's wonderful.
And I'm happy to do that, especially if I worked with you and I know that the potential there is to be such a great meteorologist on television one day. Like I work with them one-on-one every day to make them the best they can be.
I love that. I think that we need more mentors in life.
I do agree with you on that because I think that's one of the reasons I'm very lucky is I had great mentors.
Well, your story,
Yes.
how you got into the industry,
Yes.
and then you're paying that forward.
And
with
they
all these
invested
kids.
in me, and it's like,
Yeah.
so I want to invest in them back. It's like twofold. You round out the circle.
I just want to say, I know they're trying to get me to end, but because we'll do it again. But I do want to say, I want everyone to know that she only married her husband because of his last name. Just so everybody knows.
That's, yeah.